Okay. Hey guys. I wanted to just come on here really quick and share my devotion that I had this morning. It was phenomenal, fairly challenging, but I enjoyed just the setup of Luke. I'm diving into Luke. This is a book I'm going to be studying for a while now. And I just wanted to, I don't know, just share with you guys what I got out of it because I was like, whoa, this is crazy. How our experiences can really fog our perspective of God, and how in that there are consequences. And so that was what my devotion was this morning, and I just loved it. So I wanted to come on here and share with you guys. In Luke chapter 1, it it introduces us to Zacharias and his wife Elizabeth, who were both old. Elizabeth was barren. She wasn't able to carry children. Zacharias went to the temple one day, and at the temple he was greeted by the angel Gabriel. And upon arrival, Gabriel startled him, which is to be expected, and then began to speak to Zacharias about this a message from God of what was going to come. And he was telling Zacharias how your wife is going to become pregnant and she's going to carry a son named John, and he is basically going to be a faithful man of God. And he was going to change the Israelites, and he was just going to bring people back to the Father. And so in reading this story, I was just kind of reading it because I was like, well, I'm going to read Luke. So I was just kind of reading it, and I kept reading the story. And so he was going to bring a lot of people back to the Father. And telling Zacharias all this, Zacharias was listening to Gabriel. And when Gabriel got done relaying the message from God of what was going to happen in their lives, Zacharias questioned, who are you and how is this going to happen? Me and my wife are both old and she's barren. And the response that Gabriel gave was, I believe it's in verse 19, and he said, and the angel answered and said to him, I am Gabriel, who stands in the presence of God, and who was sent to speak to you and bring you these glad tidings. But behold, you will be mute and not able to speak until the day these things take place, because you did not believe my words, which will be fulfilled in their own time. I was jaw dropped at that moment. I just couldn't believe that was the response that Gabriel had gave Zacharias, and I didn't really understand it at first. So I continued to read it. And he did. He silenced him, so he goes back to the temple, and everybody's looking at him hey, where you been? You've been gone for so long. And Zacharias had no words. He couldn't respond to them. And so it goes on to then say that his wife does become pregnant, and she hides her pregnancy for the first 5 months. Then it stops there in the story. It jumps down to Mary, and it now tells the story of Mary and how the same angel Gabriel came to her. And this didn't happen the same day or the next day or anything like that, but this is just how he connected the stories in the book of Luke. And so it goes on now to Mary and tells us how the same angel to Mary and tells her the same thing. And granted, the first time Gabriel came, he came to the male, he came to Zacharias, and he was telling him that your wife is going to become pregnant. In the story with Mary, he didn't go to Joseph. He went to Mary and let her know that you are going to carry a son, and you're going to name him Jesus, and he's going to be the redeemer of this world. And heard that story before. I've always grew up on that story. However, when I read it today and seeing the parallel between Gabriel going to Zacharias and then Gabriel going to Mary and sharing that they were both going to bear sons. One was going to be John, the other one was going to be Jesus. And she listened to Gabriel, and he also let her know that you're going to carry the Redeemer of this world. You're going to carry the Savior of this world. So then her response was, then Mary said to the angel, this is verse 34. It says, how can this be, since I do not know a man? Now, the differences between the two, because you would think like, oh, that sounds the same. He asked like, how is this going to happen because we're old, and and she's barren. And Mary said, well, how can this be? Because I don't have a man. And so this is what God showed me in this scripture. Zacharias answered from his experiences. His experiences with his wife were, one, it was his wife, so he had already slept with her. He had already tried to have children. None of that happened. And then she was barren, so he knew like this wasn't physically possible for have a child. Whereas Mary's response was, how can this happen? Because I understand that in order for me to have a child, I have to have slept with a man. And granted, she had Joseph, but she was still a virgin. And so I believe that the differences here were that Zacharias questions from a state of his experience as to, like, Lord, how's that going to happen? I didn't already slept with this woman. Ain't no way she going to become pregnant. Whereas Mary said, Lord, how is this going to happen? Because I have not slept with a man. His experiences, I believe, clouded the power of God, if that makes sense. He allowed his experiences and his control take preference over what God can do. He was saying, well, I've already tried this and it didn't work. As to Mary was saying, I know that this is possible. However, I know that it's possible with these steps. I have to have sex in order to become pregnant. Our experiences a lot of times fog the power of God in our lives, because we will say, been there, done that, already tried it. And we begin to question God in this state of, or position of, I already know that this doesn't work because I've already tried it. Whereas you have someone like Mary who is humbly questioning, like, Lord, how is this going to happen? Because I am not in a sexual relationship. And so I believe that our perspectives and our experiences can definitely cloud us from the power and the miracles of God in our lives. And so in my devotion today, that was just so like mind-blowing for me to ask myself the question, how are my experiences, my personal experiences, fogging my judgment of God's truth? And I think that that's a huge question that we have to ask ourselves. Like, because I have experienced this, I'm like, I know this isn't going to work because I already done it. And that is me, I should say. I know a lot of times in my life, and my husband hears this all the time, I can't do that. I already tried that way. I already tried that way. And sometimes God is saying, I don't care that you tried it that way. I am God. And then we don't understand what the consequences of our experiences and our will allow us to reap, because we decided to question and doubt God and his power because of our own personal experiences. And so I just want you guys to understand that, one, it's okay to ask God a question like Mary did. She said, well, how is this going to happen? Because I ain't sleeping with nobody. Versus questioning God as like, this, like, how you finna do this because I already tried and it didn't work. It's two different perspectives. And so as we live our lives as Christians and trying to really seek God and our purpose and whatever it is that we're trying to find Christian life out, just know that there are consequences. And Zacharias did have consequences for questioning the authority and the power of God. And his consequence was that his mouth was shut, and his mouth was shut until he had wrote the name on the tablet of his son. And that in that moment was when he was able to speak again. And his response when his mouth was open was praises to God, because I believe in that moment you realize, and he was the man of God, so he knew God. However, he just had a short moment, and he knew in that moment that all praises went to God, because everything that God had said had came to fruition. So for me, like I said, just think, when you guys really think, or as we live our lives and we're feeling like God's telling us to do something, remember that it's okay to ask God a question, but never speak from your experiences and what you can obtain, because what you can obtain is very, very, very minute to what God of the Father can obtain. And so never allow your experiences to clog the power of God. And so that's all I wanted to come out here and share with you guys tonight, because it was just such an awe moment for me. I was like, yo, too many times I allow my experiences to fog the power of God, to fog the promises of God, to fog the authority of God, to fog the trust that I have in God. My experiences become very overwhelming And to the point where my first response is not just like, okay, Lord, how are you going to do this? It's like, Lord, I know this can't happen because I've already tried. And so just continue to trust God, continue to put your faith in God, continue to try God in all actuality. Like, let's really pray about our doubt in God and pray that God removes our doubt, because we don't know what those consequences are, because he doesn't say like, hey, you did this, so boom, this is your consequence. Sometimes we go through life and we're like, man, is this my consequence for being disobedient? And we don't have the answers. So I just want to leave you guys with really trust God, no matter how many times you have physically tried, no matter what you think is possible. Just trust God, because he's God. He's sovereign. He's majestic. He's all powerful. He's all knowing. And so I just wanted to give you guys that encouragement that when we go to God and we do have questions, let's make sure our heart posture is correct. And let's make sure that our experiences are not clouding our trust in God. All right.